So my dad and I were talking before the 2024 election, and that is when I realized that he still is all in with Trump. And I realized that even after January 6th, there really was just seemingly nothing Trump could do to lose my dad's support. And I was still in a place where I was trying to understand where he was coming from. And we were talking about the 2020 election. And Dad says the evidence of election fraud in the 2020 election was never actually looked at by the judges. He says the judges were all activist plants and that the whole system was rigged from the start. So the argument I might have, if the election was stolen, why did Trump lose 61 of 62 court cases in the lead up to January 6th? That argument would really not go anywhere with my dad because everything was rigged. So that's why he lost them all. But I just want to know the truth at this point, not because I can go back in time and relitigate what we argued about back then. Not that I can change his mind or win, but because my dad's certainty in his truth was always drowning out my small intuitive voice that may have been telling me to challenge what I was hearing at the time. I want to know the truth now so I can tell that voice she's right, even if she's quiet and unsure. And that's why I do this journalism. So leading up to January 6th, Trump filed 62 lawsuits to try and reverse the results of the 2020 election. He won one case in Pennsylvania, and it had to do with when people could turn in their ballots. I think it might have had to do with voter ID. It had zero bearing on the results of the election, and it didn't change anything, although he did win that case. And in the 61 remaining cases, the ones that he did lose, 30 of them were dismissed based on the merits or the lack of evidence. The judges did actually, indeed, look at the evidence in 30 of these cases and decided that there was just nothing that could move the case forward. 11 of them were dismissed on a lack of standing. For example, Texas had an issue with the ballots in Pennsylvania and tried to sue, but Texas does not have standing in Pennsylvania, so cases like that were dropped, 11 of them. 9 of them were dismissed for untimeliness. For example, if you don't like a rule that was established in August, but you wait until November 4th to sue, that is not timely. That's playing games, and you just can't do that, playa. 8 were voluntarily dropped by the complainants, so even their own lawyers knew that they were full of crap. And 3 of them were dismissed on muteness or jurisdiction. Too little, too late. The argument that my dad has, that the evidence wasn't looked at and that the cases were all just thrown out, that does not appear to line up with reality when you actually look at what happened to those 62 cases. And then there's the other argument, that the judges were activists, that the whole judiciary was stacked against Trump. Let's look at the anatomy of the judiciary. Many, like my dad, are furious at activist judges. But really, it must be that you're furious at a lack of activist judges. Because despite their best